Welcome to this new episode from this photo critique series where I just offer you some tips and ideas from my part to your photos, the photos that you've submitted. This time I've recorded 2 episodes into one, so I took the photos that you've submitted for 2 episodes, episodes 4 and 5, and put it all in one just to have more photos ready for you and to kind of stepping up the pace and have more of you have your photos critiqued sooner. Now again, thank you for all your submissions. Thank you for having the courage to submit your photos, because it's not easy. As I said before, it's not easy to have your photos submitted and critiqued in front of everybody. So thank you for this, and I hope that all this will be useful for you, and I hope that you will decide to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're new here. And yeah, let's start the critique.
So we'll start with this image by Valentin Trifescu, and from what I see over here, the intention is really good. The problem is the focal length, I think. In my opinion, this photo would have looked better with a little wider focal length, because you have an interesting element that introduces you to the scene, then you have a point of interest, then you have some kind of a support for this point of interest, but it all happens on the sides of the photo. So this whole thing should be a little bit more in the center, and that is why you need a focal point, a focal length that it's a little wider than 25 millimeters. This photo, I think, I'm pretty sure it was discussed. I don't know exactly, episode 1 or 2. I think episode 1. Thomas Dovidaitis, a Canon 6D 16-35 at f11 200th of a second in Oslo. Okay, so let's take a look at the image. I think the image, it's okay. I think everything works here. You have a good zigzag or an S curve. You can call it as you want. I think zigzag it's more appropriate for me, at least. But this photo, it's okay the way it is. I have nothing bad to say about it. David Pollock, Wild Ranger on Fujifilm, just one of 100 plus chickens that wild range about our farmstead. Well, it's an interesting photo of a chicken. It's an interesting photo. That's the only thing that I think I can say. It's not a bad photo. It's an interesting photo. It's an interesting photo of a chicken. I really can't pronounce this name. Canon PowerShot, Christmas morning, 320th of a second, f8, ISO 100, setup, contrast in GIMP. The only minus is this character over here. It's the type of photo and the type of framing that it doesn't need a character over here. Now, in terms of post-processing, I think you overdone it. You have here some issues in the sky, and that is because of high contrast. And you need to pay attention. Although black and white looks okay with high contrast, you need also to have the photo technically intact. Also, you have some blown highlights over here, which it's again either a result of the high contrast, or it's like this also in the original photo. Vazrul Saltiani, no filter enhance on Snapseed. In terms of composition, it looks like this image is split in 2. This should have been your main interest, but right now the way it's framed, it looks like it's only it's on one side of the photo, and it's not properly supported by this big piece of rock. In terms of editing, everything is okay except the purple tint in the water. Andre Duncan Storhaug. This image looks okay the way it is. Because of, I said it before, sometimes the way the lines of the photo are presenting itself, you have the tendency to think that the photo, it's not straight. even though the horizon line may be straight and these fir trees are straight, because of this long line that kind of goes into to the right, you have the impression that this photo it's not straight. So sometimes it's worth experimenting with the crop and kind of trying to fix this just a little bit, because if you go too much, then the trees are going to be leaning to a wrong side. But as a composition, this photo it's okay, the exposure it's okay. In terms of editing, I like it the way it is. You can also try in this kind of composition a really long exposure to calm the water down, but it looks okay the way it is. Jeff McDonald, Nikon D7000. Okay, this is the kind of photo that it's kind of about nothing, because I see that you have a foreground element, you thought of a foreground element, you thought of something over here, and probably was interested in this tree over here, but this entire the most interesting thing would have been this tree. And if you've made the photo like this, tighter and exposing for the highlight, then you would have had a much more interesting image. So next time, pay attention to what you want to photograph and how you want to photograph it. Johanni Laaksonen, sunset at Dragvard in Finland. I hope I pronounced it okay. Dragvard. Okay. Stop trying to pronounce strange names. Canon 6D 6-second exposure, circular polarizer, ND Gradual of 0.9. This means 3 stops over ND Graduated plus an ND of 1.2. Okay, the horizon line should be straight. It's a little bit off. Okay, well, the photo it's okay composed. The thing that I think it lacks, you have a foreground element and then straight a background element. You don't have a connection between these two, and sometimes it works, but the way you have this over here, it kind of gives the impression that should be something that would connect these two areas. It's okay. The photo it's not bad. Don't understand that the photo it's bad. The only thing that I think should be done with this photo is to have a much straighter horizontal line, and in the future try to think of how to connect the different elements of the photo, because this is the way you kind of turn the page when you're telling the story. So it's a way to connect things. Brian B. Brown, Nikon D7200, 800th of a second, ISO 800. Well, first of all, just from the start, whenever you have a 800th of a second and you are at ISO 800, you can go down with the ISO. So, for example, if you go ISO 400, it's 1 stop, 200 it's 2 stops, and 100 it's 3 stops. So if you go with ISO 100, then you go 3 stops down over here and you have 100th of a second, and 100th of a second at the lens that you used, you can also shot it from by hand. It's just a suggestion. Or carry a tripod with you, but if you don't have a tripod, in a situation like this with these settings, you could have easily shot at 100th of a second. But this is just a technical thing. Other than that, the photo looks okay. In my opinion, the way you framed this entire image, it's let's say 70 to 80% correct. The thing that I want you to think about is to realize what's more important to you. the forest above or the water below. And depending on your answer, you frame the bridge in the upper side of the photo or in the lower part of the photo. You have both elements. If you, for example, if you want to favor this area over here, then you frame from here at the base of these two trees and you go up. And I think this way you tell a better story, because you help people to understand what made you decide to photograph. Other than that, the image looks okay, the entire feeling, it's okay. It's like a it looks like a almost like a fairy tale, and I think the image is okay, but you need a little bit more attention to these details. Alan Macmillan: hello Tom, delighted to join your group. I started my photography 1 year ago, so still very much a novice. I took this shot a little it doesn't matter how many years you started your photography journey. After 10 years, I also consider myself a learning photographer. You always learn. You're not, of course you get more experienced, but there will always be situations where your photo's gonna suck, no matter how many years you have. So for me, it's a continuous learning process. I took this shot at a little local near my home. Will be limited lens-wise, a 12mm and a 32mm size. It is a 5-frame panel shot. Okay, let's take a look. Well, there are different elements over here that don't work. My suggestion would have been to concentrate on this alone. This is the shot, in my opinion, because you would have had a foreground element, and then you have the lake, and then you have the reflections, and then you have the small construction over here, and then you have a counterpoint over here. And this counterpoint, it's the counter for this. So this would have been your shot. These elements over here go in the wrong direction. Everything should go in this direction, and this doesn't help. And I really hope that these small tips will help you in the future. Brad SU: well, again, in my opinion, the subject of the photo, it's not that interesting to be photographed. The photograph, it's okay in terms of focusing on this. Then you have some problems because of the strong contrast editing over here, but this is minor. The big minus, I think, it's the subject. Katie Mason: Canon 50D, Tamron lens, 70mm ISO, 160 15th of a second, f20. I think this photo looks great. I really like it. I don't know what's this is sand, and I don't know if it's blown by the wind. I don't know exactly. It looks like this, or it's water, and this is a longer expose, but no, it's 15 of a second. I don't know, but it looks very good. I really like it. Lori Walker, Nikon D5500, 125th of a second, f8 ISO, 160, 40mm. If you take a look at the photo, you have a line that goes like this, and then the river turns over here. You don't have a stopping element over here, a supporting element, an element that will help you go with the view over here. Now, this is the first thing that is happening. You go like this, you go like this, but you don't have an element over here that will kind of force you to go over here. The second thing is that you have this big area over here that it's not that interesting. Of course it helps this line, but the grass over here doesn't look that good. And then you have the third element, and you have this tree, and your photo, I think, should have been about this tree and this reflection. I think would have been better. It's okay to think in much more complex lines, but if you do so, don't have elements that will draw the eye. For example, I'm always looking at this tree, and I really don't go with my eyes in your other composition elements. That is what I think you should think of. Choose a subject, but the subject has to be the end of the journey, not the beginning of the journey. Duncan Craig, hi Tom, I'm submitting an image I shot in the desert. I used my tripod and had a polarizer. The ISO was 100, the exposure 320th of a second. This is as I shot it. One does not do much. Okay, the S of the shadow with the grass growing around the dead tree in front was just beginning to tell a story, so I shot it. Thanks for the opportunity. So the S of the shadow with the grass, well, the problem is that the S starts over here, and that is why it's not that visible. Okay, let's start with some things. First of all, in a situation like this, the sky should not be included. Then I think that the problem is that this shadow starts over here. Okay, over here, because you don't see the whole shadow, but then it goes almost down, almost out of the photo, and then goes up. So in a situation like this, I suggest to position yourself in a way that you have a clear start, but then the shadow kind of leads up to the photo, kind of helps you evolve in the photo. And why I said not include the sky, because you have too many elements. For me, this shot was about the shadow, this small tree that it's on the shadow, and then the rest of the elements. The place looks interesting. I hope that you had more shots. Also, pay really close attention to the edges of your frame. You have a really small element over here that should not be there. Alan Macmillan, not sure if 2 images meet your criteria, Tom, but thought I would post this one. This is great. This is a simple image. It's great. The only thing that I want to tell you is to be careful to the edges of your frame. This doesn't belong here, but the rest of the image, it's okay, and I have nothing bad to say about this image. Gary Lore, this is a I'm not interested in what it says here because the image looks great. It's an interesting image. It has high contrast. The subject, it's in high contrast. I don't know exactly if your focus it's over here. It looks like it's over here and not on the eyes. In terms of post-processing, I think this image would benefit from removing this purple tint from this area over here, but just as it is, I think it's great because the subject separates really well and it tells a really beautiful story, because we are not usually seeing such a colorful bird on a tree that it's covered in ice. Rick Thurman, my office is in a corporate business center and it's next to a wetland pond. Okay, this is a situation when this is not your subject, but you frame it as it was. If this would have looked much more separated from the rest of the forest over here, maybe could have been your subject, but the way it is, it's not separated enough. You don't understand what is happening over here. We have the reflection, and that is why we know. So the shot, I think, would have been either everything that is behind it, or maybe just this with this as a reflection, and then the reflection could have become an interesting subject. Also, you would have had reflections of the birds, and I think would have been a much more interesting image. I don't know if it's Carlene or Charlene Erdnage. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced. Ice mushrooms, mushroom formations at the base of Niagara Falls. These are huge but lack perspective here. Well, the image looks okay. It's nothing wrong with the image, but you told me that these are huge. I realized that I think it's almost impossible to have a human figure over here. I'm pretty sure, but if you would have had something that would have shown us the true proportion, then this photo I think would have been epic. But it looks okay the way it is. It's beautiful with all this ice. Andrew Criswell, Maya Wong Son, Province, Thailand. It's a clean shot of the forest. It's not. I will try to say it in a proper way. When I photograph forests, I try to have a strong leading line that goes through the forest. This doesn't mean that is the only way to photograph forests. For me, this is a clean shot. You have let's say kind of a frame, kind of a foreground element, then you have the light over here. It's a pleasant image to look at. Vasrul Saltiani, Fujifilm. This is interesting, the way it looks. It's an interesting image. I think it's okay. I would try to see how a crop like this without the sky would look like. This is my only suggestion. The image, it's okay to have this right in the center. Matt Davey, hey Toma, this was shot on my Fujifilm. It was shot on 18mm f8 20 seconds. Photo was taken in New Zealand. When I was working as a lead 3D artist, my dream was to get to New Zealand, to Wellington, to Weta Digital. They were the ones that created the special effects for Lord of the Rings, King Kong and The Hobbit. So New Zealand, it's a really great place. They have some really beautiful landscapes. And in this situation, I think the photo, it's okay. This tree works okay to take the eye and go to the cliff over here. Then you have a beautiful sky. I really like that you didn't include it, the bright light from the sunset, because that would have caught the eye much more than the rest. So I think this image, it's okay. Lubomir Pao, the Dark Ridge Dolomites. I wanted to say that this looks like the Dolomites. I really like this image. I like how it's edited in this really high contrast. I think this is pleasant to watch. I'm trying to think right now if I have a suggestion how to improve it. But even I was thinking if I would have cropped it, but again I don't think that would have been a good decision, because you have this bright patches of light over here that also relate to the light over here. No, I think this is okay the way it is. I hope, I don't know, Siagawanto, I don't know how to pronounce this. The image is really great. I really like it. It's beautiful. It shows the entire story of this. You know exactly where you are. You are on a pond, and this small frog over here, I think, looks great. The image is okay. George Estanciu. Okay, you need to decide. You need to decide if this is the subject or this is just a leading line. Because in this case, in the way you frame it, this is your subject and this is your subject again, because it's not leading the eye. The position you had over here doesn't help the viewer to go toward the bridge. So you either do something like this and you have this as your subject, or I don't know exactly if you can move to more to the right and then you include the bridge over here with just a tree line that helps guide the eye to the bridge. Alan Macmillan. Hi Tomo, this image at anchor was taken in Scotland at sunrise last summer. Okay, that's 0.6 hard grad. This is a two-stop gradiated filter. The ship's at anchor. Okay. Well, and 12mm prime lens. It's because of the of the wide shot. You don't necessarily. This I can tell it's a ship, but these I didn't had any any thought that these would have been ships. Okay, the horizon line looks a little bit off, and for the purpose of this story I don't think this is a good foreground element. Let's try to analyze this geometrically if you want. These elements are to the right, okay? Then you have a really powerful stopping element over here with some clouds above it, and then you have this in the center. And the relationship between all these, it's not quite there. First of all, crop the image from here. All this, it's not necessary. So here, crop it, and then crop it like this. And what will happen is this element will go to the left and will kind of continue the story to the right. Okay, this is again one of those images that I think don't have all the elements there. It's the flow of the water, it's nice how it's captured, but all the other elements are not necessarily interesting or do not add anything to the image. So the entire shot I think would have been something like this. This should have been your concentration. Joe Cosma, Raro Mountain, sunrise January. Yeah, well, it's on Raro, but the photo doesn't speak about the mountain. Maybe this small element over here should be a really small hint, but this photo could have been in just about anywhere. This is just a side note to understand that if you place a photo and you tie it to a location, it has to speak a little bit about that location. Other than that, this is not a talk about the quality of the photo, but it's about the way you present it. Okay, and what I think you lack, it's a point of interest. You have beautiful fir trees covered in snow, you have beautiful sky, you have a beautiful light. What you need, it's something that will draw the eye. You have like a really beautiful set, but you don't have something that should have made as the subject of this image. And I don't know exactly what should have been, but it's a pleasant image to look at. but I think kind of lacks something. Other than that, it's correctly executed. A little bit high on the contrast, I think, when you post-process it, and a little bit more, a little bit too saturated in this area. But these are just my personal preferences. What I really would have liked to see a subject. I'm just so connected on this. Andre Duncan Storhawk. This is really beautiful. I really like the ripples. This is a situation when you don't do a really long exposure. The ripples look really beautiful. And the birds over here. This is a really nice image. Massimo Santoro, Fog in the Dolomites. It's nice. I like it. I think I like all the photos from the Dolomites. It's really beautiful. I have nothing bad to say. Emil Wenger. Well, this is a situation when where I would have not photographed, because there are so many elements that distract the eye. This is so many also this tree over here that it's right in front of you. You need to understand that your eye and your brain will kind of eliminate elements that are very visible to me. For example, I'm pretty sure that you looked and you say, wow, this is beautiful. And yes, it's beautiful to watch, but it's not always beautiful to photograph. Matt Bowen, this is a classical shot, but I really like it. I really like the soft feeling of it. This is what I like, the soft feeling of this image, and it's beautiful. Maybe a few, maybe there is too much sky over here, but it's a really small thing. I really like the image. It's really beautiful. Well, I think in this image, a bluebird backyard, the focus seems to be over here and not on the eye of the bird. The moment it's beautiful, it's nice. The only thing that I have to say it's about the focus. The sadness of the different. Well, in a situation like this, I think you have more success with choosing a really open aperture and a really long focal length, just to have all the background totally blown, totally in a complete bouquet, if you want. But the way it is right now, it's not something that's interesting, because the subject, it's not separating. Pronunciation of my name is Jarv Schwinar. Jarv Schwinar. Okay. Canon 60, no tripod, with a big landscape like this one. Where is the best place to focus? Because I didn't try focus taking. Well, in a situation like this, you can focus over here, and at f14, 32 millimeters, probably you'll have everything in focus. It's not when you have big landscapes like this, it's not that difficult to have everything in focus. If you focus somewhere over here, then you'll probably have everything else in focus. If you focus somewhere over here, there is a chance for this element not to be that sharp, but again, it's going to be it's not going to be blurry, this element, because of this really big landscape. It's a really big topic to talk about, but just shortly said, this would be a good place to focus, or even this over here. Now, in terms of your composition, everything is okay. You have a big stopping element over here, stopping element over here. You have the river that goes like this. You have a good entrance to the shot. I really like this image and have nothing bad to say about it. Peter Dreschler. This was taken just after dawn. Well, I really like this image. This is a type of image that I think speaks a really beautiful story. I really like it. I think this is really beautiful. Jean-Claude Sicard, Monaville Rock Pool. Again, this is okay. I think this is okay. At the moment it's okay. I think everything it's okay with this photo. And the last one from David Pollock. It was Henri Cartier-Bresson, the legendary French photographer, who coined the concept of decisive moment. On rare occasions I have been blessed with such a decisive moment, but this capture is perhaps the most monumental for me. Yes, the scene, it's almost picturesque, and I think it's a really beautiful scene. It's like an old painting of the hunting ground. Yes, the image is okay the way it is.
This was it for this episode, and I really hope that you found all the information useful, and if you're not already subscribed, that you will subscribe to this YouTube channel, and make sure you click the bell notification icon to know exactly when I do a new upload. And if you are already subscribed, thanks for watching, for commenting and sharing and supporting my work, and for all of you out there, thanks for everything, and until next time, keep on photographing. It's the only way that you can get better. Bye bye.